Hi, Mr. C here, and we're about to do a guided reading. This one is a Read at Home level 4C, and it's called Husky Adventure. Remember, with our guided reading, we go through the book 4 times. First time through, we're just going to do a picture walk. That's where you look at the pictures, talk lots about what you see and what you think is happening. Second time through, I'll do a read aloud where I read the story to you, and you'll get a chance to see if what you thought's happening in the picture matches to the words on the page. Third time through, we'll do an echo read. Remember, that's where I read first, and then you read. And the last time through the book will be an independent reading time for you where you get a chance to read it on your own. But remember, you can pause this video at any point in order to spend more time on a page to talk about that picture or to try and make your way through reading that particular page. Keep practicing till you can read it perfectly. All right, let's get started. So this is the Read at Home series, level 4C, called Husky Adventure. We'll do this through 4 parts, the first part being a picture walk. So just looking at the pictures, talking about what you see. Don't look at the words, and if you need to, pause this video so you can spend more time on each picture. All right, let's get started with Husky Adventure. Take a look at what's happening on the front cover. So what's happening in this picture? What's happening here? And now what's happening? What's going on in this picture? Where is Floppy? What's happening? What's back here? What's happening now? What's happening in this picture? What's Floppy doing? What's happening in this picture? And then in here? What's happening in this double picture? Who's that? What's happened to Floppy? Where are they going? What's he doing with Floppy? What's happening here? Take a look at this picture. Where are they? What are they doing? Where do you think they're going? Where's this place? What's happening here? What's happening in this picture? And what's happening now? Here are some questions to try and answer. You can pause the video to answer these questions. Answer your questions based on what you saw in the pictures and what you think might be happening. Here's the first one. Why did Floppy go and hide? Did the Huskies, those are the dogs, did the Huskies think Floppy would be good at pulling the sled? Why not? Why couldn't the man take his son to hospital in a car? Where would you like to go on a magic key adventure? Okay, we're going to go through Husky Adventure. This time as a read aloud. I've got my trusty yellow strip here. Let's do the story one more time. Husky Adventure. It had been snowing. Kipper wanted Floppy to pull his sled. "Go on, Floppy, pull," he called. Floppy didn't want to pull the sled. He ran and hid in Biff's room. Suddenly, the magic key began to glow. It took Floppy into an adventure. The magic took Floppy to a dark, cold forest. There was snow everywhere. The snow felt cold on Floppy's paws, and a cold wind was blowing. "Brrr," thought Floppy. Floppy began to walk, but his paws sank in the deep snow. He heard a howling sound. "Ow!" "What is that?" thought Floppy. Oh no, it was a pack of wolves. They had red eyes and long white teeth. They growled at Floppy. Floppy was scared of the wolves. He ran through the trees. Suddenly, Floppy fell down. He rolled over and over. He went faster and faster. Then he hit a tree. Bump! Floppy lay in the snow with his eyes shut. A man ran up. "Quick," he said, "my boy is sick. I must get him to a hospital. I need another dog to pull the sled." The man took Floppy to the sled. Oh no, thought Floppy. Another pack of wolves. But they were not wolves. They were husky dogs. The dogs growled. "Are you the new dog? You look too floppy to pull a sled," they said. The man put straps on Floppy. "You've got to run fast," he said. "We must get to the hospital." The biggest dog barked at Floppy. "Just keep up, you floppy dog," he said. "We've got to run fast." Floppy was cross. "Don't call me a floppy dog," he said. "I'll show you." The sled went faster and faster. "Slow down," panted the husky dogs. "We can't keep up with you." At last they got to the hospital. "Thank you," shouted the man. "You saved my son." The husky dogs looked at Floppy. "Wow, you can run fast," they said. "You're not a floppy dog." "You can stay with us," said the husky dogs. We need a dog like you. The magic key began to glow. Good, thought Floppy. I need a rest. Come and pull my sled, Floppy, said Kipper. Oh no, thought Floppy. Okay, let's go through the book a third time. This time it will be an echo read. Remember, that's Mr. C reads first, and then it's your turn. Let's start with the title. Husky Adventure. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. It had been snowing. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Kipper wanted Floppy to pull his sled. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Go on, Floppy. Pull, he called. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Floppy didn't want to pull the sled. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. He ran and hid in Biff's bedroom. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Suddenly, the magic key began to glow. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. It took Floppy into an adventure. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. The magic took Floppy to a dark, cold forest. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. There was snow everywhere. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. The snow felt cold on Floppy's paws, and a cold wind was blowing. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Brrr, thought Floppy. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Floppy began to walk, but his paws sank in the deep snow. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. He heard a howling sound. Ow! Your turn. Ow! Mr. C's turn. What is that? Thought Floppy. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Oh no, it was a pack of wolves. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. They had red eyes and long white teeth. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. They growled at Floppy. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Floppy was scared of the wolves. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. He ran through the trees. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Suddenly, Floppy fell down. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. He rolled over and over. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. He went faster and faster. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Then he hit a tree. Bump. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Floppy lay in the snow with his eyes shut. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. A man ran up. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Quick, he said, my boy is sick. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. I must get him to hospital. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. I need another dog to pull the sled. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. The man took Floppy to the sled. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Oh no, thought Floppy. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Another pack of wolves. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. But they were not wolves. They were husky dogs. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. The dogs growled. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Are you the new dog? Your turn. Mr. C's turn. You look too floppy to pull a sled, they said. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. The man put straps on Floppy. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. You've got to run fast, he said. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. We must get to the hospital. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. The biggest dog barked at Floppy. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Just keep up, you floppy dog, he said. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. We've got to run fast. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Floppy was cross. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Don't call me a floppy dog, he said. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. I'll show you. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. The sled went faster and faster. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Slow down, panted the husky dogs. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. We can't keep up with you. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. At last they got to the hospital. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Thank you, shouted the man. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. You've saved my son. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. The husky dogs looked at Floppy. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Wow, you can run fast, they said. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. You're not a floppy dog. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. You can stay with us, said the husky dogs. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. We need a dog like you. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. The magic key began to glow. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Good, thought Floppy. I need a rest. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Come and pull my sled, Floppy, said Kipper. Your turn. Mr. C's turn. Oh no, thought Floppy. Your turn. Okay, we'll go for our fourth time through the book. This time it's an independent read, so you're reading on your own. Remember, you can pause this video if you need more time on a page, and you should practice this book over and over again until you've mastered it. Mastering it means you can read through the whole book with no mistakes, no need for help, and your reading speed is the same speed that you would talk at. So keep practicing. Here we go. Start with the title. All right, keep practicing that book. Well done.